So I've got a mailing idea.
Okay.
You know how much, I really like to think that I'm like the center of attention in Paragon world, right? So what if
I'm already picturing the mailer with your face on it. I'm not saying it's a good idea, but as soon as you said that, that's what went through my mind.
That's what I was going to go with. Is that mailing it out with a picture of like my face on it going, sign up with us and get a free lunch.
Like one of those like cheesy like political commercials and it just skips space.
That's what I was thinking, with like a little bubble that came out. And then we would list on the back of the services, all the services we provide. And then if you sign up with us, you get a free lunch with me.
Is somebody going to want a free lunch with you?
Well,
are you going to have to pay them to have lunch with you? Just kidding.
Ouch. Well, free lunch.
Yeah.
But I should have my face on it?
I don't know.
I'm thinking you're thinking that's a hard no.
Yeah, maybe not your face.
All right, well.
You could be in it as like a smaller part of it, but not just your face.
Thanks. Well, there's probably a lot better ways to do direct mail. And today we've got Wade Knopf from the Money Mailer. He's going to be here talking about different ways that businesses can use the Money Mailer system in order to get their business noticed. Maybe not without their face on it, but they got a great way to do it. So stand by and he'll be on with us in a minute. Hi, everyone. This is Skip Ranke.
And Emma Opperman Vogt.
And this is the Main Street Marketing Podcast.
A podcast where we discuss anything and everything marketing.
And this month we have a very special guest. We have Wade Knopf from Money Mailer. He's a senior marketing consultant. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for coming.
Awesome. Let's start with you and tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got into it.
That's a loaded question. So I do direct mail marketing. That's what I've been doing for 30 years. I graduated in computer science. I was a programmer and did it for 2 years and hated it. And we were at a BizOp show one day in the early 90s, and Money Mailer had a franchise sale booth that was going on, and I grabbed the video and it sat for 6 months, and I threw it in the VCR and called my wife in and said, I'm making a career change, and bought the franchise, and here we are 30-some years later.
Wow. So
that's what we did. So then, so that Money Mailer is the coupon envelope part of what we do, and then we do a lot of solo direct mail and postcards, and as I've grown over the years and clients need stuff, I've kind of added that to my repertoire. But
sounds good. So you work with a lot of different clients. So what kind of businesses would benefit most from like the Money Mailer program that you have? Or any of those services?
Yeah, no. What's funny, everybody can do it. I've had industries all over the place. Traditionally, restaurants, bars, pizza parlors, retail, home improvement. Those are the typical categories that you see in there. But I always tell people that we're providing eyeballs, and if you've got something to sell, you can make it work in a money mailer. If it's a paradigm shift that people have never seen, I'll use an example. Like right now, I've got a client that is selling Aero Seal. That's something to seal your house tight so that you get better efficiency. It's new. People don't know anything about it, and so can they be successful? Yes, but it takes time because you're teaching the public something new, and it takes time to do it. And that's where repetition comes in and things like that. But yeah, I'd say pretty much anybody can do stuff. I run my own ads in Money Mailer. So you can have business to business doing it, because I always tell people, it's not what you're going to see in a typical Money Mailer or Valpak envelope, but you have business owners that are opening the envelopes. You've got the front end staff that are opening the envelopes. So they're the ones that know what's going on in the business. So if you're trying to get in and you're selling, I don't know, exterminating, and you've got a business promo, could it be successful? Yeah, you can try it.
Real quick side question, and something you mentioned there. You talk about the consistency side of the world. How many people, just out of curiosity, come to you and say, I'm just going to do one?
Everyone.
I was wondering if that was going to be the case.
Yeah. No, and back in the day, and Money Mailer Corporate and every sales organization will say, no, we're not doing one time. I always tell people, because I'm not an order taker. If somebody says, hey, I'm going to do it, I want to do it once. I'm like, you're paying for it. But here's what's going to happen when you do it once and why you shouldn't do it once. And so I spend a half hour getting into it. But at the end of the day, if you don't want to take my advice, we'll run it once, and that's fine. I'm not going to say no to money. And sometimes you get lucky if it's I don't know, pick a entertainment or something that's seasonally hot. and you're selling Christmas trees in December, you're probably going to do all right, and a one-time mailing is going to be fine. If you're McDonald's and you're going to do a buy one get one free Big Mac, well, back in the day you'd do well. Now it's not so much because everybody's trying to get healthier. But sometimes it's okay to do a one-time mailing, but I try not to.
So you talk about one-time mail. I mean, something like that. They might have a promotion or something that's really, really compelling to help somebody take action. I mean, so what types of promotions or what types of things that businesses do that make it compelling for people to actually want to pick up the coupon and call?
That's a loaded question too.
It probably is. I'm sorry.
No, it all depends. I think it depends on a couple things. One, how old the company is, because if they're in business and they're running at 90% capacity, they don't need hundreds of coupons coming in. They want a small volume of coupons, but they for whatever they want to sell. So I think it depends. So they don't want to do a buy one get one free if they're a restaurant or if they're a construction company and they're existing and they're 2 weeks out, but they want to be 3 weeks out. All right, I think just putting the ad in there, it's not about the offer a lot of times. It's just being in that envelope and being in the right place at the right time, because they're going to call 4 roofers and figure out who they're going to invite into the house, and that doesn't have much to do with the offer. If you're a new business, then I think you're really aggressive. You need something that's going to get people to say, "Ooh, I'm going to try them," because they've already got relationships with whatever they're selling with some of their competitors. So you need something really aggressive to get them to come in. So I don't think there's a one coupon answer for anybody. I think it's all different.
Is there any specific promotion or coupon that's been super memorable?
Super memorable.
Or a success story of those people that have done this for a long time, and how that worked out for their business?
I think I always go back. There was back to the question of they want to try it once, and everybody wants to try it once, but nobody thinks that people open the envelopes. That's the first thing I get from all new clients. And I had PDQ was a client in Bayside, and they had it's a very high income area, and they had $1 off any fill up coupon, and they would get bags and bags and bags of coupons in, and it was just funny on how many people go in just for that $1 off fill up. And so we ran that for probably 6 months, a year, and PDQ corporate made them stop it because it was too successful, and they were giving away too many dollar refills. But
now people open the envelopes.
Right. No, right, exactly. And that's I tell that story. And then down the road, Bayside Garden Center and this goes back, I think he was one of my first clients. But it took him 2 years to finally, professional persistence, going in and trying to get him in. He's a garden center. He's got to do good. Well, he finally gives me a shot, and the shot he gives me is in Christmas time, and the North Shore is predominantly Jewish, and so I got excited. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, shit, Christmas trees. And I go in January after everything's done, and he comes out with bags of these coupons for Christmas trees, and obviously he had poinsettias and other decorated stuff, and he had Jewish decorations, and then he was a client for forever at that point on.
There's always something though.
It is always something. It's fun. I don't. But those are. I mean, everybody's memorable, right? I mean, it's. Everybody's got their own individual.
I mean, I know
stories.
that. Yeah, I mean, I've opened the coupon when they're the packs when they come through, and then I get a ton of postcards. So you get both of them throughout the time. And so let's look at that. So you work with postcards, they mail them on, and then you have the coupon packs. What do you think's better? What do you think people get better responses from, the coupon packs or the postcards?
Ignoring price, the postcard is always the best option, because no matter what you do with that postcard, your goal is to get your message in front of somebody, and so they're looking at the postcard no matter what they do with it. Even if they throw it away, they saw your name, and that's all the branding that goes on. But when you look at your return on investment, and you're spending, so money mailer zones are in increments of 10,000. So if you mail 10,000 money mailers, it's going to cost you, let's say, $350. If you mail 10,000 the cheapest you could get into a postcard is maybe 29 cents. So you're spending $3,000 versus 350, so it's about 10 times more. So you need 10 times the return to get it. And I'd say anybody that does both, and we have call tracking and we'll do things, the postcard always outpulls the money mailer, but it's a different comparison. But it doesn't always outpull them when you're looking at the return on investment. And so people always say, well, I don't want to do the envelope because it's not my thing. I don't like it. Nobody opens the envelope kind of thing. It's like, well, for $300, it's worth it to try it. And if it doesn't work, give me 3-4 mailings and I'm telling you it's going to work. We can still do the postcards, but let's do it in a right way. And so you test it, and then 99 out of 100 times the envelope becomes the winner, but you still do the postcards because there's not everybody. I always the DMA, and I'm not a big DMA statistic kind of guy, because just because something works for you in Bayside doesn't mean that same exact ad is going to work for the same exact company, your competitor in Brookfield, kind of thing. So that's where you're changing it up, you're doing different things. And
that messaging could be different too.
Right.
Depending on what the product is and what the service is and how it resonates with that area. So that's why working with somebody and customizing them like yourself is far better than just throwing something out there.
Throwing something out there and hoping it sticks.
By far.
So you talked a little bit about that return, and obviously coupons, that's easy to track. You mentioned call tracking. So talk a little bit more about how you track that return on that direct mail.
I think every client should have call tracking and track their returns. Reality is they don't, because they don't have time to do it, and they don't, they know, they have a gut feeling, oh, it worked because the calls are coming in, or I'm looking at my website and I see the traffic went up. So that normally they're happy with that. But many times they'll look and say, no, money mailer's not working. And we have a call tracking number set up. And then we go and look at the call tracking, and then you show them the 60 calls that they got. No. And then you listen to the calls, and a lot of times the calls are, I'm looking on your website. I see that you do windows, or I see that you do catering. And so now the person that's tracking the calls in the office heard website, website lead. And so then they soon discover that, wow, there's, just because you're doing money mailer and maybe you're doing Valpak, or you're doing a postcard, or you're doing, SEO, and you're doing different things, they all tie in together. But they're using one to call and one to go visit you. And the call tracking is nice because it verifies all that. But then it's also nice because you have recordings of every call that comes in. And so it becomes a quality control thing that the customer can go back and listen to what their staff is saying, and are they answering the calls right and doing what he wants. So it becomes a lot of different things. And now QR codes are coming in. QR codes have been around a while, but now there's trackable QR codes that you can track where they're going on a website, and then what activity they're doing with the website, which now ties back to, all right, well, the only reason they went to the website with that QR code was because it was in that postcard or the money mailer ad. And so, and I've got clients that will have different tracking numbers set up for different zones, and sometimes you get, what is it? Analysis for paralysis by analysis.
Yeah, that's it.
So I always try to start broad, and then if we need to, if you don't feel you're getting a lead in Brookfield or you're not pulling what you need, we change it up. If it's working in the North Shore, keep the North Shore, change it up just out in Brookfield kind of thing.
One of the other things I think that the call numbers really help small business or business owners with is because they always forget to ask how did you hear about us?
Yes.
And so that is the number one thing we tell people when we're working with them. And I'm sure you always say, be sure to ask how you hear from us, because their first touch point could have been Google lead. It could have been Facebook.
Yep.
Then they came and saw the postcard. So, but it's, or the coupon, whatever it is, where did you hear of us? But that phone number takes that out of there. And so does the QR code.
Well, it does. And there's, over 30 years, I'll date myself. Back in the day, how did you hear about us? Not Yellow Pages. I haven't run a Yellow Page ad in years, but that people
Do they
just,
even
that's
exist
how
anymore?
No, it doesn't exist. But, so now it's, how did you hear about us? We all want the customer to say money mailer or the billboard, or I saw, I got a Facebook post, or something, but they never do. They
No, they're gonna
just
think of their last
generically,
touch point.
I was on the website, I Googled you. So now everything's Google. Well, no,
Right.
it's
How'd
not.
you know how to Google us? Did you hear our name before?
I
We talk
Googled
about
you.
that all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, and but that really wasn't the first place they saw you.
No,
It's
no,
amazing. We've had one person that said, "Where did you first hear about us?" And they said, "Well, I first saw you at." Was that one out of how many? They're never going to remember that one part. But going back to that though, the part about that is consistency. I know that we've talked a little about consistency. That is the key to absolutely anything, whether it's doing a podcast and doing this. So what's with regards to like people that you work with, how often are they running? Are they running every single month? Are they running every quarter? I mean, what's usually you have a lot of different businesses, I know, but is there a really successful cadence that you should be doing, and how does that work? How's that all playing?
I think it all depends on the industry.
Yeah.
I'd say 60% of my business is they're mailing every month.
Okay.
They may not mail the same zones every month. Like we've got 15 zones in Metro Milwaukee. I've got clients that'll mail 5 one month, 5 the next month, 5 the next month, and then they come back around and they circle that way. I think, and a lot of my clients have been with me since day one. So I think there's that repetition is 1,000% key. When I'm meeting with a new client, the repetition is you got to be in the same zone for 4 months in a row just to get that name recognition out there, and it gives you a chance to also make your ad work. If you're not getting what you want, that consistency. All right, they didn't like that picture, they didn't like that color scheme. We're going to change it up on mailing 3, because when mailing 2 comes, you had maybe a week to change anything up. So really, you can't start changing anything till the 3rd mailing and then the 4th mailing. But then after that, now people you can. We proved that the medium works, and now we can start adding zones and doing things to make it work. And clients that have been there for years and years and years, I think the repetition is you don't have to be there 10 times a year. You can be there 5 times and alternate the zones and work on the budget so that now you can tie in some other things.
Yep.
So, but the consistency is key.
Yeah, and I know you do a really good job with that. I mean, we work together on a mutual account, and I know we're always talking about different zones and targeting specific areas and really narrowing the target instead of that broad brush when we really have, and it's proven wild success for our client. But I like the idea of that system because it's like those zones. You can just really hit them and pound them at a lower price point. It's a great program.
Yep.
I do love it.
So besides consistency being important, are there any other like pitfalls or common mistakes that business owners should be aware of when it comes to this?
I wouldn't say pitfalls that direct mail causes. I think when people come in with unrealistic expectations, or they read their marketing book and they went online and read a whole bunch of articles that said you should get a 3% return on investment, or a 3% return. Oh, if I'm going to do 10,000, well, then they do bad math, because then they think 3,000 is 3% of 10,000, and it's like, no, it's 300, but 300 is even high.
Oh yeah.
So let's figure it out. You're a roofer, or can you handle 300 leads? No, you can't. So let's get rid of the numbers and let's focus on what's the value of one customer, what are we selling, and then work backwards to say, all right, if you're spending, you're doing all 15 of our zones and you're spending $4,000, and your average sale is $15,000. Let's not have a conversation of 100 leads, because the leads you're going to get from Money Mailer are going to be good leads. I think I'm going off on a way different tangent.
Fine.
When you look at all the different mediums that are out there, if I have a bad gut feeling, and I get them, I just stop following up with a client that had an interest coming in, because I know they're not the kind of people I want in the envelope. It's a bait and switch thing. They're not selling a good product, and I can't tell you the number of calls I get from customers, readers, which I call them my customers of Money Mailer,
Right.
that will report bad things of, I called so and so and he came out, and whatever the situation is. And so years and years of doing that, and when people open the envelope, and my parents open the envelope, my friends open the envelope, if I put crap in there, it's soon enough they're not going to be opening the envelope. And so I think that's where we were, because what were we talking about? Repetition, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And
mistakes.
pitfalls.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I firmly believe that the quality of leads that you're going to get from a Money Mailer is going to be better you may not get the volume, and I've preached that for years.
Oh yeah.
Valpak, you may get more volume from Valpak, and it's never. And I work with a lot of Valpak clients. I work with Clipper clients. I work all the mediums that are out there. And one year Clipper will win, and one year Valpak will win, and one year Money Mailer will win. Why is it? But the one thing that's always consistent is we won't be the volume leader, but we'll be the quality and the higher price point leader for whatever reason. And I think it has to do with who we put in the envelope. And we're not, I try not to put. And the other thing is, I don't want 5 roofers and 5 dry cleaners in an envelope. I'd rather have 1 or 2 and then move on to the next category and have an envelope of 30 different industries than an envelope of 5 industries and 5 clients in each industry. People get bored with that quick.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point about the program, is because that's not, when you open that, it's not 15 or 5 or 6 or 7 of the same different industry.
Yep.
And I think that does have that to me adds a lot of value to it. And they're different, but they're different products entirely though. I'll open the Valpak because I'm always, what do I look for?
We all do. Yeah.
I'm looking for the restaurant coupon that I get every single month because I order it every single time. And then I may not even get to the back.
Yep.
Because the minute I get to that coupon, I got the one I want. But as a marketing professional now, I've been looking through most of the coupons because I'm looking at seeing all those others, and it's like there was one over there and there. So that's interesting you say about that, only having a couple of one industry. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
That's pretty awesome. So are there any common, well, you already asked that, I'm sorry about that. Are there emerging trends that's going on right now?
Not in direct mail. Direct mail is not, they package it differently. They have, the post office has their EDDM program,
Right.
which is no different than how we used to mail Money Mailer 30 years ago with a saturation piece.
Yeah.
So I don't think direct mail is changing much. What you can use in direct mail, I think, has changed. The QR code is I think, a big thing from a trackability standpoint. The call tracking, quality of print is gone. That's always changing and getting better.
Sure.
I think how information is out there now. So we used to, when I say we, all of us, Valpak and Money Mailer, both used to be saturation mailings where we just picked an area and we mailed everybody. Well, now we're both targeted. So we're not, we're looking for single family, upper income. Not that apartments are bad, but they don't have typically home improvement certainly doesn't want to mail to apartments, and restaurants want a customer that's going to be spending money and have the disposable income to come multiple times in a month. So that's where we've gone in the industry, and I think that those have been the biggest things. But how we do it really hasn't changed that much.
Cool. All right, awesome. That's great information. So now we're going to come to the point where we talk about questions that we have for you.
Rapid questions.
You got it. Your answers
Rapid
are not
questions.
They're not
All
right and they're not wrong. They're just rapid questions. So, what is the worst advice that you ever got from somebody?
The worst
advice you've ever gotten.
And I have to do this rapidly. That's
Well,
a deep question.
we ask them rapidly. You don't have to answer.
You don't have to answer them rapidly.
Honestly, I don't know that I've ever got bad advice. I mean, everybody gives you bad opinions and you take it in, and if you follow it, you learn from it and you move on. So I don't know that there is bad advice.
I like that.
That's a great answer. That's awesome. That's a great perspective. Okay, tell us about a direct myth about direct mail.
Well, that would go back to, I think I brought it up before, the 3% response. Well, 2 myths. One, we're going to get a 3%. And then the myth that, well, nobody opens the envelope. Nobody looks at direct mail. It's like everybody goes to their mailbox at least every other day. And people like going to the mailbox. They get the newspaper, that you get your bills, but occasionally get letters. But it's still a thing that everybody does. No other medium can say that.
Very good point.
That is true.
That's a really good point. So, do you have a favorite industry that you like to work with?
No, I'd say, there's so many industries that I work with. Right now I'm working, I love fireworks. So I've got a fireworks client. So I'd say that's my favorite industry right now.
Different.
Yeah, that is fun. And that's a short window.
Oh, that's a very short window.
I was gonna say,
month and a half.
Yeah,
and,
that's all full gas, no brake on that one.
Yeah.
So what is something new that you've recently learned? Doesn't have to be about direct mail, but what is something new that you've recently learned?
New that I've recently learned. What have I learned? shoot, my son joined me in the business, and it's fun because he's more in tune with technology. And I have been AI, whatever it is. AI is not going to affect me at all. And one day we had a menu that needed to be done, and menus take hours to reproduce, right? The client gives you a menu. I change this, but I want to redo everything. All right, well, we got to get the menu in there, and they typically don't have electronic files. Somebody did it years ago, but they don't have anything.
Yeah, we can't find that
You got to
file type.
retype everything in.
Never heard that before.
So Harrison, my son, says, "Oh, ChatGPT can do that. Is that GPT? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
GPT?" So
Yeah.
he scans the thing. 30 seconds later, 10 seconds probably, the whole frickin' menu is redone and typed in a Word document that is now editable for my artist to take it, which normally would have been 2 hours of editing, and then you got to proof it, and then you got to reproof it, and then you send it to 4 or 5 other people. And we caught two errors in an entire menu from ChatGPT. So that's the one thing I've learned is AI, it can be very cool. So we've used it now.
A little
multiple
mind-blowing
times.
for somebody our age.
Yeah,
It's
no, it
really
is.
like,
It's-
we're always used to typing it out, but yeah, it is. It's a great tool.
Yeah.
All right, so tell me an unpopular opinion or a hill that you're willing to die on. Oh boy, I knew that.
No, I always tell everybody because you're out. I can't afford to have opinions because I meet with a Republican at 9 o'clock. I meet a Democrat at 10 o'clock. I meet all different nationalities,
Sure.
and everybody's got. So I don't have any strong opinions. I got to be right down the middle. So I won't die on anything because if I die on something, somebody's gonna be mad. I don't like getting people mad at me.
There you go. All right, what's something that you've read, listened to, heard, something that's new that you'd like to recommend with somebody? Could be a podcast.
Book.
Could be anything.
Yeah. I like documentaries. So like one, because I normally don't watch TV and I don't listen to radio when I'm driving because I'm normally on the phone and I'm working, and so I don't. The only time I have TV time is when you get home and you're laying in bed or you're watching some TV. But usually it's documentaries or the 30 on 30 stuff. And the most recent one that you watch was I saw O.J. Simpson. They had a new documentary out, and you don't think we grew up with him, but you don't. As a young kid, you're not really paying attention to how much of a good member of society he was. But he was a good guy until something happened that triggered, that caused him to do whatever he did with Nicole Prom. But
Really?
it's worth a watch. Yeah, because he was a good one.
I like documentaries.
We were watching all different
Mainly
kinds of stuff.
docuseries, so I can split it up and then not have to watch it all at once. I don't have the patience for that.
Yeah, we just started watching something where it's one camera angle, it's one roll, one take, the whole show, and it's just one camera. It's pretty amazing when you watch it. You're like, there's no cuts.
Yeah,
And it's just like, and it's one take, nobody messes up. You're like, wow,
that's pretty good.
that ain't my world.
That's good.
I'll tell you that. All right, if listeners took one thing away from today and what we talked about, what would that be?
Direct mail works. That's the biggest thing. It's still the most affordable, trackable. That's the biggest thing. I mean, we didn't talk about it, but there's billboards, TV. You can't track a lot of that. And my clients, and I work with small businesses. My typical client is a one location mom and pop shop, and they're not about branding, they're not about image. They're about image, but they're about, if I'm spending $500, I want to know I'm getting $500 in return. And you can't get that with anything. Direct mail allows that to be incredibly trackable.
Very good point.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, this is great information. Thanks for coming on the show today and talking with us. We appreciate it. Money Mailer is a great product. Talk to Wade Knopf. He's the way you got to talk to. You can find out the information. We'll give us a call. We'll send it on to you. He's a good guy to work with.
Thank you.
Well, that was pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah.
The one thing I really took from it, and I didn't know, I suspected, but I confirmed it, said in the Money Mailer, it's very limited amounts of industries in that specific mailer, which I think is a big value add for the people that are in that, because they're not with like 10 other people with that.
I enjoy learning more about the call tracking numbers. Obviously, we have a lot of people that use that, but I think the biggest thing with direct mail is people are like, I can't track that. But there are ways to do that, and I think it's cool that you can actually get the call recording to help prove, right, where these came from. And in that story that he shared, well, I found your website, right, but it actually came from the coupon or the direct mail was how they got to the website.
Yeah, and that's something we've always talked. I mean, I've listened to some of those before, and I guess you forget about the fact that you can use it as a quality control.
Right.
That it's an aspect of it, and yeah, it's not just for, well, not to get off on that, but it's not that it's just for tracking if the mailing was successful, but it does add that a little bit of an element to you as well. But the other thing I completely forgot about is that the quantity in those money mailers are just they're in that targeted area so much smaller than those other, like the 3,000-4,000 ones you have to do on ones for other ones. That money mailer is just much smaller. So I think that from a small business who's looking to get into it for the consistency and having the ability to hit that same area multiple times, that's a huge win for somebody.
Yeah.
This has been the Main Street Marketing Podcast. I am Skip Ranke.
I'm Emma Opperman, vote.
And you can get the Main Street Marketing Podcast from all of your sources for podcasts, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get those.
Or you can find it on our YouTube account.
Thanks for joining us today. Take care.